Welcome back to another edition of Let's Talk About It. And on today's show, we're going to be talking about 5 IT things you need to do when you're starting a business.
So one of the topics that comes up quite a bit is, what should I do when I start a new business? What IT-related things should I be concerned with? So we've compiled a little list here, and I think we can go over them one by one. The first thing, obviously, is to create a domain name. Right, Sean?
And make it a good one.
Yeah.
A lot of people, when they're creating their domain name, and maybe first of all, you should explain what is a domain name?
Well, so I guess the easiest example is the mycompany.com or mycompany.ca or mycompany.net. Obviously, it's related to the company name itself, which brings us to your point, that we try to choose a name that makes sense and also is maybe shorter than some names we've seen with hyphens and
right.
super long, 12, 15 character names. So, cleverdogit.com, infotechmontreal.com, these are examples of domains. And you need to buy one of these.
Make it easy to remember because, you're going to be using it in your advertising and you want people to be able to remember that, to go to your website.
Yeah.
Your
email address will be attached to it.
That's exactly it. So it's a pretty important choice what you choose, and now there's lots of different extensions, whereas it used to be
one or two.
There was only a handful, and now there's .net, .tv. There's all kinds of different things. So you want to make sure that it fits with whatever space you're working in,
yeah.
and is very easy to remember.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize how cheap these are. They're roughly $25, $30 per year. You would buy them through a registered, what they call registrar. So places that are authorized to give out these domain names.
Not where you get your marriage license, or
no, that's not the registrar we're talking about.
Or not the registrars that I've been to anyway.
No. And you'd have to do a search. You'd have to do what's called a who is search to find out if that name's already been taken. But it's a pretty straightforward process. So then that brings us to the next thing, is that you'd probably want to host someone that's going to host this domain and where your website's going to live, basically. So they call these companies web hosts, pretty straightforward. GoDaddy is a good example, Network Solutions, there's a bunch of them out there. Anything that you would have to say about a web host that matters?
Yeah, I think the big thing there is you want to go with someone reputable, because obviously it's going to be very important for you that if it's a website, that it's always up. So you need to pick a host that is reputable and has backup systems and redundancy, so your website just simply isn't going down.
Never goes down.
And then the host you pick, you may have some other requirements. If you're trying to do some sort of e-commerce site, you want to make sure that they're properly set up for that. That's
a good point, yeah, because some sites are going to be basic, but some will have transactional databases, things like that. So it's not every host that can deal with those type of things. There might be credit card checking in the background. So these are things you got to think about.
Right.
The next thing, of course, is someone to actually build a website. That's pretty important. Web designers, let's call them, web creators. There's thousands of them out there. Typically, we like to recommend a partner that we've worked with before that we know does good work, reasonably priced. Sometimes you need translation services, especially working in Quebec. That's pretty important. So anything else we could think about for a web host or a web designer that would matter to our customers?
I think that covers most of the the basics, and then you want to work with that web host depending on what your needs are. And in some cases, you may want to be able to do some of the updates on a website if you're going to have
Sure.
one that is updating frequently.
Sure.
These are all things to think about.
So that would be the structure of the website, then what it's made with and things like that. That makes a difference, right? So these are things to consider.
You may not want to rely on if you're updating it frequently, you may not want to rely on the web host
Agreed.
to do that. You may want to be able to do some of that yourself, and you've got to think about how other things are going to play into that, like blogs and that sort of thing, and social media. How that will fit in.
Good point. Yeah. You should definitely talk to your professionals about that. This brings us to our fourth point, would be email. You want to have hosted email attached to your domain. I think that's something we're going to be chatting about in another session.
Yes.
Small pet peeve of ours, but in general, the @mycompany.com, you would attach your email to that. Sean@mycompany.com, James@mycompany.com. So there needs to be a company to manage that, and there's not really a bunch of them, right? There's two as far as we're concerned, and you'd probably probably say one.
Yeah, and that it's very important that your domain is utilized in your email address. So you're not using, for instance, a Hotmail address or a Gmail address. You want to ensure that it's your name at yourdomainname.com, because it really shows how serious your business is.
Agreed.
And I have to be honest, if someone emails me with a Gmail address, I don't take it seriously at all.
We'll get into that in our next session.
That's why I haven't been replying to your emails, just so you know.
Oh, I shouldn't use my Gmail account for business. I never thought of that. And then, of course, that's really important. Email setup is very critical to today's business. And then the last thing I guess we could touch on is hire an MSP. Find yourself a good IT guy to manage all of these things for you. Ask them questions about all these topics we spoke about, how easy it is.
And work with them as a partner. I mean, I think that's the big thing to move your business forward. You really want that partnership with your managed service provider, because they can offer a lot of ideas and help you, in building that business through
Stuff
better
you wouldn't
IT.
have even thought of, right? You just wouldn't even know to ask the question. So
Right.
Yeah, it's a good idea to get one of those. So there you have it. That sums up the 5 IT-related things you need to do when starting a new business. And we understand that some of this stuff could be daunting for you and that you might not know where to turn, but don't be shy to look these things up online. You can post questions below. You can send us an email, and we'd be glad to answer any of your questions. We hope to see you next week.